Last time we talked about why I write, and I gave examples of why anybody would want to write. And we also said that anything is worth writing about, although we make a distinction between serious writing and less serious writing. But I think all writing is serious. And related to writing is reading. You cannot separate reading from writing, or writing from reading. The two things go hand in hand. If you're a good reader, then you will turn out to be a good writer. But you can't just be a good writer without reading. And reading need not necessarily be selective. There is no separating reading from writing, or writing from reading. And if you look historically, women were the greatest readers, and then they turned out to be the greatest writers, inevitably. They had what we will consider more leisure time. They were at home because they were not expected to work in the conventional sense. It was considered a preserve of male members of society. They did not think, reading and writing was work. But as Karl Marx said, a writer is a worker because he's a producer of ideas. So the production of ideas is a form of work. So women were the leading readers and writers in the previous centuries, and especially in the 19th century. And if you look at the leading novelists of the 19th century, you will find that women were the largest number of writers because they read a lot. If you read Pride and Prejudice, then you know this is Jane Austen. If you read other prominent fiction, you can trace it to women. And that also happened, for example, in the United States. Women who came from educated families became great readers, and then in turn turned out to be great writers. They became institutions, and everybody wanted to read what they have written. So only in backward societies would they consider writing by women as inferior, but there's nothing like that. So we get psychological novels, political novels, and all manner of writing. And some women protested that they were treated less than human or less than intelligent. And we know this from the writings of 19th century feminists like Virginia Woolf, who wrote the famous essay, A Room of One's Own. She was lucky because she was brought up by a conscientious father, an educated father, and already saw that the daughter had a potential, and made sure that she developed her talents to the fullest. Whereas maybe in other societies, they will say, "Oh no, women don't have anything serious to say. Even in our own society, we have female poets like the 19th century Sioux poet Mwanakupona, who wrote Utenzi wa Mwanakupona, which in fact summarized Islamic values, and what young ladies should read, how they should be socialized, and how they should have a balanced life. And if you read Utenzi wa Mwanakupona, you find all these necessary lessons in life that a young lady must be brought up to become a young lady, in the real sense of the word, by balancing both domestic responsibilities and also personal pleasures. So it doesn't distinguish between what is religious and what is non-religious. Everything is assumed to be religious. It just depends upon the way that you take it. And again, this is also true in other societies. So the notion that Muslim societies are oppressive only held by those who know next to nothing about Muslim societies and Muslim values. But anybody who knows Islamic values, they will know that, in fact, that is directly derived from the teachings of the Quran and the traditions of the Prophet. And as something, as I've said, you cannot separate religious values from social values. They all belong to the same spectrum of values. So what I consider to be, for example, Christian values are not very different, from Islamic values. It's just a matter of emphasis. So by reading, we are able to know about all these aspects. And if we don't read, we just dwell in ignorance. And when we dwell in ignorance, perpetuate prejudices, because prejudice is just a form of fear. You are prejudiced against somebody because you don't know them. You are prejudiced against societies because you don't understand them. But once you come to understand individuals, or you understand societies, then you become less prejudiced, and you are open to ideas from everywhere. So there is this very close relationship, between reading and writing. And by reading, we also can transport ourselves to different centuries, different periods in human history. So if you want to know what life was like during the medieval period, then we go and read writings by medieval writers. If you want to know literary production, during that period, then we do the same. If you want to know what people read and wrote during the Renaissance period, then we go to the Renaissance period. And then we look at these periods within their own context. We don't bring so-called modern or contemporary standards in order to judge these people. So that is why, say, so-and-so is a racist writer. How can somebody writing in the 11th century be a racist writer, because the idea of race, was completely different from what we hold to be the idea of race in contemporary periods. What should we advise people to read? What kinds of things they should read? First, I think there's this myth that reading is something that is specific to different groups. But in fact, as long as we are literate, then we are potential readers, and because we are potential readers, we are also potential writers. By reading extensively, then you expose yourself the kinds of things that other people are reading, other people find entertaining, that other people find informative. So it is only through this concerted effort on the part of the individuals to be as permanently curious as possible. Because if you're not curious, then your universe is going to be very limited, and your exposure will also be very limited. So reading is not about only children or people who go to school. Reading is about all of us, about everyone, who is literate. By reading, you discover things and areas that you never imagined existed. There's hardly anything, under the sun that has not been mentioned, that has not been tackled, but you might not be aware of those. So by reading, by exposing yourself to different literatures, then you will be able to broaden your horizons. So whether you are a great writer, somebody who aspires to be a writer, you still have to read. And if you don't read, then you'll be left behind. Because even the greatest writers continue reading and exposing themselves to new ideas, and they will be exposed as long as they are reading. There's a lot that we don't know about societies, about historical eras or periods. We don't know much about other spaces, and that is how science fiction came about, because you also have this room to imagine not only what exists now, but what you would like to see in future. So if you look at great science writers like C.P. Clarke and others, they imagined alternative worlds, and through these we were able to discover, for example, contraceptives and things that we never imagined, would exist. The only thing that we were unable to imagine was the birth of the internet. This is one thing that eluded human beings, and as we know, the internet was discovered fortuitously, actually by a woman who taught his son, or rather the son was curious about what the mother was interested in, and she was a mathematician. And by looking at her contribution, he was able to come up with the whole notion of joining these isolated creative areas into the World Wide Web. This is by Lee Berners, or what he's better known now as Sir Lee Berners, was a professor. Right now, he's a professor at MIT, but at that time, he was in Britain, and probably if he was someplace else, he might not have been able to think the whole notion of joining the various webs into the World Wide Web. And he's still active. He's not an old man. You will imagine that he's an old man, but no. And he still teaches. But when we think of the internet and its power and potential of enriching somebody, then we think of Bill Gates. But Bill Gates really had nothing to do, with the internet. What he did was to exploit the internet in a way that Sir Lee Berners would never have done himself. He couldn't care, about whether he would become wealthy or not. He only cares that this has become such a useful thing for human beings that they actually can't live without this. And it will go ad infinitum.